From South Carolina Public Radio, this is the South Carolina Lede. I'm your host, Gavin Jackson, and this episode was recorded on March 9th, 2026 from South Carolina Public Radio Studios here in Columbia. On this episode of The Lede, it's budget week in the House, and the Senate is taking up hemp regulations this week for all you THC drinkers out there. And we hear from Senator Lindsey Graham about the latest on Iran. We also get a national/midterm/election vibe check with our good friend, AP National Politics reporter, Meg Kinnard. And we have some highlights from a recent gubernatorial forum up in Greenville. #that Greenville. A lot on this podcast for you guys. Stay tuned. Also, check out the State House Gavel at SCETV.org/thegavel, where Tuesday through Friday, my instructor and myself bring you recaps, previews, big and small State House moments, meeting schedule highlights, photos, videos, and more.
No way.
Emphasis on the more.
Thank you.
Of course, we'll be incorporating all that fun coverage into our podcast, along with you. At 803-563-7169. That's how you get incorporated into the podcast in the Wind Down section. Wind Down. WIND, 803-563-7169. Or you can wine down, WHINE, with a glass of WINE, SUWIND down. And you can also CALL the Hopper at 803-563-7169. Thank you. All right, let's look at what's on tap this week at the State House. It's week 9.
Number 9.
House is on budget, and the Senate is on the hemp-derived consumables bill, H 3924, so stay tuned for those debates. Up in Congress, the House is out this week, and the Senate remains in, and the Department of Homeland Security is still not funded. Watch out for those TSA lines, folks.
Brother,
And on the economic front, we get February inflation data, CPI, on Wednesday. We have a brief Iran update. Oil has been flirting above the significant $100 a barrel level as gas prices continue to skyrocket as a result of the war with Iran that has effectively shut down the Strait of Hormuz.
What's that, brother?
It's where about like a fifth of the world's energy flows through. Right now, barrels are hovering around $92 to $97 a barrel for West Texas Intermediate and Brent crude, respectively. So, let us know what you're paying out there, because right now the average cost of a gallon of gas in South Carolina is $3.16, which, if you're keeping track, has raised 17 cents since I told you when we recorded on Friday. So it's only going up, folks. Pre-Iran war, that was $2.67 a gallon. 6-7. So we're up around 50 cents a gallon in the state so far during this war. And diesel is up nearly $1 a gallon from last week to $4.47 a gallon. So all that's going to trickle out into prices and inflation. Speaking of this cost, Senator Lindsey Graham was talking to Maria Bartiromo on Fox News Sunday Morning Futures about the cost of the war and not just a gallon of gas.
Best money ever spent. Was it worth to America to take down a religious Nazi regime who's trying to build a nuclear weapon to deliver to America? That's a really good investment. They're going to fall. It's not if the regime falls, it's a matter of when. And you didn't mention today, and nobody has, quite frankly, we now know they had enough 60% enriched uranium to make 11 bombs. What's that worth to America to make sure they don't have 11 bombs? All of this money is to make sure they never go nuclear, they can't hit us with ballistic missiles, and they stop terrorizing the region. When this regime goes down, we're going to have a new Mideast. We're going to make a ton of money. Nobody will threaten the Straits of Hormuz again. But Donald J. Trump saved the world from real chaos. Witkoff, the negotiator, was told by the Iranians openly that they have stockpiled enough 60% enriched uranium, 460 kilograms, to make 11 bombs. Thank God Trump did this. Can you imagine a year from now? What would it cost America if Iran had 11 nuclear bombs to threaten us? They would hold us hostage. We would be held hostage in perpetuity by this terrorist regime. So the money we're spending is a good investment to take down a regime that's been the largest state sponsor of terrorism, has got American blood on its hands. And when this regime falls, it's not if, when, we're going to have a gateway to peace. And the next thing that will happen is Saudi Arabia will recognize Israel, and that will be the biggest change in 2,000 years in the Mideast. And Donald J. Trump is the man to make it all happen. He's the first president in 47 years to call the question on the Iranian regime. They're religious Nazis. We negotiated with them. They would not give up their enriched uranium. They would not pledge to stop making weapons that could hit America. They still fund the proxies. When this regime falls, there'll be no money for Hezbollah, Hamas, and the Houthis. What is that worth? So the money we're spending to take this regime down is going to make us safer. It's going to keep them from having nuclear capability down the road, and we will have a new Mideast where we make money. But it ain't about money today. It's about 6 Americans who died in the defense of our country. Now, to our Arab friends, you're being hit too. Has any Arab country struck Iran? Now, if you want a treaty with the United States, you need to get in this fight. Now, America's not going to the Mideast just to fight alone. So I'm urging our Arab allies to fight back. You're being hit too. So how does this end? It ends with victory. Donald J. Trump is going to bring this regime down. It's going to be replaced by something more friendly to the United States. It's going to open up the biggest deal in 2,000 years where Saudi Arabia and Israel not only recognize each other, they will do business.
A grand vision. Will it play out like that? TBD. This week, it's week 9 of the legislative session, and we are officially at the midway point of the session. Things are heating up, of course. It's the last year of the 2-year session, and push is coming to shove for the future of some bills. The budget debate is underway in the House, and the Senate is set to debate hemp-derived consumables legislation, H. 3924, this week. I asked Senate Majority Leader Shane Massey last week about being at the midway point. This was his response. Woo-hoo. Indeed. As for how the session is progressing and where things will go during the remaining 9 weeks, here's what Massey said.
Yeah, we're moving along pretty good. I mean, I was expecting, 10 weeks ago, I was expecting that the regulations bill would have moved a little bit quicker, but also did not expect that some of these other things would have moved as quick as they have. So, but I'm okay. I'm not complaining about the regulations bill. I think there needs to be some more work on it, and we're going to get that done. So things are going about how I expected. Yeah.
It's pretty much on pace. I mean, I know we don't celebrate crossover anymore, but
I think we're on pace.
Yeah.
I mean, there's going to be a lot of activity in the last 9 weeks too, but I think we're in a good spot.
The hemp bill is that regulation bill that House members easily passed last year, again, H. 3924. However, it has been heavily amended since it left the House, especially in light of that knockdown, drag-out debate in early February that sunk a more restrictive bill in the House. So this is kind of like the best shot lawmakers have right now when it comes to regulating any kind of THC drinks and gummies this session. Now, the bill would in part prohibit anyone under age 21 from buying or using certain hemp-derived products. It prohibits synthetic cannabis products. It keeps CBD products legal and under current regulations, and would more strictly regulate Delta-9 hemp-derived THC drinks, including where they can be sold and how many milligrams of THC the drinks can have. So basically making them like beer and liquor, depending on the milligrams. And now the legislation does not deal with THC gummies, but we do expect some kind of gummy-related amendment. The gummy amendment is what we'll be saying this week. Over in the House, it's budget week, which means the lawmakers have actually already gavelled in. They did that on Monday. We've been taping. They've been in already voting on the budget. They're voting on budget requests and provisos, those pesky little one-year bills, those temporary bills that sometimes become permanent in some ways. House members vote on all parts of the budget and then propose amendments, sometimes using the process as a litmus test on some issues. But what's in the budget? What's in the budget? Here are a few highlights from our friend Maayan Schechter, who is our go-to budget guru, and she put out some of these highlights, including $119 million to pay for the income tax bill. That's the current income tax bill, which reduces the top rate from 6% down to 5.39%. Now, they do want to get to zero, but it's going to cost more than $119 million. That's just showing how much it is for basically 0.2%. And of course, the Senate amended that bill to lower it to 5.21%. And the House is not changing what it already has in the budget for the current bill. So that's going to be a Senate responsibility for finding that additional money for lowering it down to 5.21%, which is something they did on their own. There's also $150 million in there to raise starting teacher pay up to $50,500. That's been a big target of the McMaster administration, and it looks like they're about to hit it. There's also $23 million for the state's private school voucher law, $8 million for the University of South Carolina's Neurological Hospital, $175 million for the Medical University of South Carolina's Cancer Hospital, $103 million for costs to maintain the Medicaid program, $34 million for changes in federal funding for match requirements for SNAP benefits, about $500 million for infrastructure, and $67 million for 2% across-the-board pay raises for state employees. Speaking of McMaster, last week, Governor Henry McMaster's longtime chief of staff, Trey Walker, Trey Boy, who has been by McMaster's side for decades, announced that he is stepping down after 9 years in the very influential role before the governor's second full term in office ends. Walker said in a statement to ETV that, quote, "As the governor's historic tenure comes to an end, we all have to prepare for the next chapter in our lives. Exciting professional and entrepreneurial opportunities require that this be my last week working for the governor's office. As I have done for the past 36 years, I will continue assisting the governor in the future," quote. And Walker told the Post and Courier in a separate interview that he is leaving to start a private consulting firm. And his first client? McMaster. The governor has appointed Walker's deputy, Mark Plowden. He was McMaster's chief of staff when he was lieutenant governor and has worked with him since 1997 to fill Walker's job. Speaking of governors, you say, Gavin, who's the next governor going to be? I don't know. I don't know the answer.
Oh, darn it.
You are in charge. This is your election, guys. Some would say it's the most consequential election ever. Every election always is. But looking at what's going on with the governor's race and to continue our ongoing coverage of the gubernatorial campaign as we are just over, I think we're just at 3 months away from the June 9th primary, definitely at three months here. A lot of things happening. On February 23rd, the Upstate Republican Women's Club and the 4th Republican District Club hosted a South Carolina Republican gubernatorial forum. And all but one of the candidates attended and spoke for several minutes before a room of some 200 very engaged Republicans. Now, I want to bring the comments from Lieutenant Governor Pamela Evett, Spartanburg Senator Josh Kimbrell, 5th District Congressman Ralph Norman, and Attorney General Alan Wilson to you. That's what I'm going to do right now. I will note that 1st District Congresswoman Nancy Mace was invited, but had a commitment in Washington. Now, things went alphabetically and politely, I might add. Everyone's very nice. And I'm just going to kind of give you snippets of everyone's comments as we kind of keep it vague right now. But here's a bit of Evett's pitch to voters.
June 9th is coming quickly. And there's a lot of people in this race. You've heard me say time and time again that I have believed in the America First policies. That's why I've stood with President Trump forever. But I have been on the executive branch in the private sector. I started a business from an office in my house, and I grew it into a national company. And I've sat at the right hand of the governor now for the 8th year. I was so proud to get the governor's endorsement. But I have the resume to do this job. And on day one, I can step into office and keep South Carolina moving forward. And I think that's really important because we have a lot of great things happening. We have a state that's growing. I think we live in the best state to live, work, and raise your family. But I also believe that our best days are yet ahead of us. And that will only happen with good, solid leadership. So if I haven't earned your vote, I hope to by June 9th.
Senator Kimbrell gave his sales pitch as well.
I mean, look, at the end of the day, you've got to be able to advance an agenda. It's one thing to shout at the wind. It's another thing to actually govern and advance legislation. A lot of people run for office. We see that in the current environment where you run for office just to say, I'm against this, I'm against this, I'm against this. Sometimes you have to be for some things. And I defeated a 30-year Democratic incumbent. People didn't know there were any Democrats left in Spartanburg. There aren't now, except for one House member. We've defeated every senator from Spartanburg is now a Republican. And that's because I beat a 30-year incumbent. Because my predecessor ran largely saying, oh, I'm conservative on this or this, but you look at the voting record, it's not. So you asked a question earlier about voting records. You can compare voting records and see where somebody is. Are you a fiscal and social conservative? I'm both. I don't believe you can be one without being the other. I've said that my entire adult life. A strong culture supports a strong economy. A strong economy supports a strong culture. You've got to be both. You can't say I'm a social conservative, doesn't care about cutting taxes, and you can't talk about cutting taxes and regulations unless you believe in strong families, pro-life principles, and socially conservative principles. So my legislative record, look it up. The only vote I'm disappointed in is I wouldn't vote for Scout again. I'm not giving them any new money. But at the end of the day, if we can get rid of all these targeted tax packages, we can actually pay for the income tax cut.
Congressman Norman continued to speak about cleaning up Columbia, slashing regulations, and using the bully pulpit to push lawmakers to get in line with his House Freedom Caucus views.
Congress has been the best thing I've done in a long time. How do you know what my record is? on your table, this is my card. This is my voting card. I got a 96% with TSA. I have for a tax, talking about cutting taxes, I've been a taxpayer hero for 8 years every time I've been in Congress. And these aren't just words that I'm telling you. These are things that I believe in because I've been there and I've done it. What am I going to do day one? One, I'm going to do we're going to clean up Columbia. I used to think Washington was the most corrupt place. Columbia is corrupt. It just is. I will put forth a extensive audit of every agency, and I will show it to each one of you.
And Attorney General Alan Wilson, who has led the state as its top law enforcement officer since being elected in 2010, was talking about his experience and what he would do if he was elected governor. And of course, he's not shy about asking folks to be their second choice because runoffs are real in a field of 5 folks.
We can't destroy each other in a primary. It's getting like that. I'm seeing hostility on social media. If you're with the other team, I understand and I respect you. What I would ask of you is, let me be your number 2. If you're supporting another candidate right now, give me the opportunity to be your number 2. And if I'm in the runoff against someone who you didn't support in the primary, then give me the opportunity to earn your vote. As a combat veteran of 30 years, as someone who's laid it all on the line, as someone who's been at the national level and defended the values that we have here in South Carolina, I'm asking you to trust me to do things like eliminate our income tax, to reform our property taxes, reform our education system, maintain parental rights at all costs. That is a sacrosanct relationship, making sure education dollars follow the child, not the educrat, infrastructure reform. These are public safety reform, to continue to support law enforcement at all levels and to continue to work with them. As your governor, we will not be transitional. We will be transformational. We're not going to play not to lose. We're going to play to win. We're going to lean in. We're going to be aggressive. We're going to get it done. And you're going to see things you have never seen before because there's a new generation of leadership with Alan Wilson and Mike Rickenbaugh, someone that if you haven't met yet, you're going to love him. He's the next big thing coming down the pipeline.
And like we said, Congresswoman Mace was invited, but due to scheduling, wasn't able to attend. You can watch all the remarks at youtube.com/@SCETV News. We have the entire forum on there. You can watch their answers to a lot of other questions as well. Filing opens on March 16th at noon and closes 2 weeks later. We'll be off to the races then, folks. God help us. And I also spoke with our great friend of the pod, AP national politics reporter Meg Kinnard, about what she's watching in the big South Carolina races this year, including the governor's race and Senator Lindsey Graham's as well. And I asked Meg about just how important not only McMaster's endorsement was for Pam Evitt, but what the looming potential President Donald Trump endorsement can mean for a candidate.
For those of us who've covered President Trump for a long time, we know that he picks his spots, and he also likes for there to be that protracted waiting game when his endorsement is still in the offing and we haven't gotten that Truth Social push telling us exactly what's going on, because that's inevitably how it always happens. It's not like there's a big event and it's a surprise. Like we get it telegraphed beforehand. And so with the primary not happening until later this summer, I think that we're going to see a bit of a drag out in terms of exactly who's going to get it. Certainly, there's a lot of theories as to McMaster, does Trump follow thereafter? But we also know that President Donald Trump doesn't like for there to be expectations placed on him. And so just because someone has done something and he's allied with that person, he still gets the attention on him if he doesn't give it quite yet.
We also know that Senator Lindsey Graham is very close to the president, too. Senator Graham is facing some primary challengers. We have seen him face challengers in the past and just win outright in the primary without even going to a runoff. He has, I think, around like $14 million in the bank. He was in the Oval Office the other day talking about immigration issues, and then that news clip on Fox became a campaign ad. There in that week, I saw it. I was like, didn't that just happen on Monday? I mean, we're seeing that Graham machine kind of come full bear right now. So I'm wondering what you think about the Senate race and how much you're paying attention. If Senator Graham is that worried about possibly being, primaried or into a runoff with someone else.
I don't think that Senator Graham or his outfit are worried. I do think that they are going to be cautious and be smart. He's been doing politics for a long time, as have the people on his team. And so they kind of understand the timeline and the cadence of when you want to peak during an election cycle. And with an active primary, you're right. Senator Graham still does have to face opponents on the Republican side of things before he gets to the general election. And so getting through those moments and continuing to, from the political strategist point of view, stay on message, but also be able to, from the senator point of view, adapt to what's happening on the international scale where Senator Graham remains very involved. That's some of his main issues involve global strategy. So kind of putting all of those things together is something that they're always going to have to consider. But I've covered Lindsey Graham for a long time. So have you. We know that in an election year, when he is facing re-election, we tend to see a lot more of the red meat Lindsey Graham come out, particularly when it comes to foreign policy, global strategy. With all the international conflicts that are happening right now, we are going to hear a lot more from Lindsey Graham advocating for himself by way of advocating for Trump administration policies on that scale. And I bet we're going to see a lot more of that coming into more TV and digital ads too.
Which can also hurt him in some ways too, because people say he's focusing too much time in these international conflicts instead of back home in South Carolina.
That's exactly what Republicans have been saying about President Donald Trump, even in recent polling. So that is another place where they have to kind of wade through it.
To which he's also brought home a lot of money too in terms of earmarks too, which people have problems with as well. But it's one thing or the other.
Always a double-edged sword.
But Meg, let's go back to the governor's race. When we're looking at polling, it's kind of been wide open. There's been scant polling here and there where you have Lieutenant Governor Pam Evett, Attorney General Alan Wilson, and 1st District Congresswoman Nancy Mace, all kind of jostling between that first position, but in the top three pretty much. Then you have Congressman Ralph Norman, and then also State Senator Josh Kimbrell, who are always kind of in the 4th and 5th place standings there. So I'm wondering, but then there's like 30% undecided.
Undecided still wins every time.
Still beating everyone in that field. And I'm wondering, from what you've seen before, how that shakes out. I mean, I think we're talking about, spending money on ads. We saw Attorney General Alan Wilson drop his first ad, which came the same day as that endorsement from McMaster for Evett. So we're seeing that kind of play out.
Right.
I'm wondering just how they need to break through. What's going to happen? We have debates coming up soon. People are starting to pay attention more, I'm guessing. So what needs to happen for those 30% undecided voters to get off the sidelines and get engaged?
These primary campaigns particularly are all about moments. And so being able to leverage a moment when it comes your way, or a bad moment that comes for one of your opponents, and trying to figure out how to boost yourself off of that. You can't predict what those moments are all of the time. Sometimes they come by way of endorsements. So if we do see that President Donald Trump endorsement, that will mark a major moment. We also know he likes to pick winners. And so it's rare that he wades into a super close race. So that's part of why I don't think that we're going to see that right now, given where the public opinion polling is. But with these debates, that'll be an opportunity for the candidates to really draw any lines of contrast that they can. We've talked before about how the policy rollouts we see from a lot of these Republicans are very similar. And even a lot of the other non-policy releases that they put out are pretty much saying the same thing a lot of times. And so maybe in debates, they'll have a chance to really show voters, okay, here's what's different about me. Here's the kind of experience that I singularly bring to the table here. And then I think it is really just going to be a long road ahead. So buckle up, because we got a lot of time left.
And to that end, too, we're seeing some differentiation already happening in terms of running mates, too. You mentioned that with Attorney General Alan Wilson picking State Senator Mike Rickenbacker Florence as his running mate. That was early on. I haven't seen anything much from the Evett camp yet, but there's a lot of whispers. We're not going to speculate here. We're going to wait. But I'm also wondering, too, for her, she's been on the McMaster team for so long, if she's really trying to earn this on her own versus declaring before the primary. There's a lot of strategery, if we can use that word.
Yeah, of course we can. Of course we can.
So it's going to be fun to see how that plays out. But what do you make of Attorney General Alan Wilson already kind of coming out of the gate early in January with that decision to announce a running mate?
And previously, when I've covered campaigns that make a move just like that, aside from perhaps the McMaster campaign, since when he was running, like we talked about in 2018, that was the first time that the ticket was really a thing here in South Carolina. But in other campaigns, in other gubernatorial campaigns or presidential campaigns, oftentimes when you see someone putting forth a running mate very early, they're looking for one of those moments, those bumps, those attention-grabbing situations where they can say, I'm already thinking about the ways that I would govern in this situation, and this is the person that I would like on my team. And also, by the way, maybe they represent a different geography in the state or a different constituency that I can add up to mine and then hopefully boost myself in the eyes of voters writ large. So I think that's probably what we're seeing. I don't think that there's any need for Lieutenant Governor to be rushing forward with a running mate, because you're absolutely right. She is trying to show South Carolina that she wants to continue the success of Governor McMaster, but she wants to be the leader in that role. And so voters still need an opportunity to consider herself as an individual candidate, not just the governor's running mate, before she starts to pick her own.
I want to pick up and go to the first congressional district race, because it has gotten attention from the DCCC in terms of it being a competitive race in their eyes. Even though the district went 57% for Trump in 2024, it has been redistricted to be more conservative. This is not your 2018 Joe Cunningham Democrat district flip of 40 years. I'm not going to make you name all the candidates on
Please
both
don't.
sides because I don't think we have an exhaustive list yet. We're going to wait till filing really closes.
Yeah.
Because there are a lot on both sides. How do you read the 1st Congressional District, especially when you see ratings from different news agencies and folks versus what you're hearing from the DCCC and what people are hoping and wishing for down there?
It's certainly, of the districts that we have, aside from Congressman Clyburn's district, but of the Republican-held districts, it's the one that's most attractive to Democrats. They would love to have that back in their hands. It hasn't happened since Joe Cunningham. You noted there's been Republican-leaning redistricting that makes it a safer hold, basically, for the party. But it's still the one that Democrats would like to have. And I mean, there are a lot of districts that they would like to have. But in a circumstance heading into these midterms where there are some more closely divided districts across the country, yes, DTRIP may be putting some resources here, but I don't think it's going to be one of their number ones when there are other places where they really do have a much better chance to not just chip away at Republicans' lead in the House, but to perhaps take over for Democrats after these midterm elections. So I think we're going to see some attention. I don't think it's the level of attention that the Democrats vying for that seat would love to have because ultimately they're not really going to be as competitive as some of those districts in other places.
Meg, just wrapping up, when you look at the national environment here too, we were just kind of mentioning that we've always talked about this, like South Carolina is not North Carolina, it's not Georgia. It's solidly red to the detriment of some folks who wish to see it differently. That's just the way it adds up. So how do you see possible national politics trickling down to the midterms, whether it affects these open congressional races or the governor's race, affecting or not affecting how this goes forward?
I still think we're going to be hearing a lot of that from all the candidates who are pursuing these races here, whether they be Republican or Democratic. I would imagine, especially from the Democrats, you will hear in their campaign stump speeches and messaging the consternation with the level of what they would characterize as inaction on the behalf of Congress right now. It has been closely divided. There have been a lot of long debates. There have been several shutdowns since there was a recent... Since
DHS
there was,
is still not funded.
as we speak. So I think that's what you're going to hear a lot of from Democrats blaming Republicans for those situations. And on the behalf of Republicans, their argument is going to be, well, if you would like to avoid some of this intransigence in the House, then give us a bigger majority. Not necessarily going to really matter in terms of South Carolina, since those seats are currently held by Republicans. But that doesn't mean we're not going to hear about it in terms of send me back to Washington or send me to Washington and show that there is more of a Republican mandate. And also, if we're able to keep control of Congress, that will enable us as a body to further enact policies that Donald Trump wants to bring down to them from the White House. And so that'll be certainly some of the arguments that we're hearing.
You can find that report and more at youtube.com/@SCETV News. Welcome to the wind down section, our little break from the news. We're glad you're here, along with A.T. Shire, lead podcast producer. Hello, A.T.
Hello, Gavin. Hello, listeners. Hello, the start of pollen season. It's going to happen. My car's looking a little bit tennis ball-y now.
Bet you wish you had a membership to a car wash like some of us do.
I absolutely don't. It will rain. I know that much.
Nope, it's going to be fresh every day with this Subaru.
I just love that I go from having RSV
Sure.
to the thick of pollen
Here's
season.
your coating of pollen.
But
Get
anyway,
back to work.
one thing
you
I
little,
also
you
love...
little bee.
You little worker bee.
You little worker bee.
Go tickle some stamens. So, Gavin, we got a call.
So we got a call.
So, yeah, about a call.
Oh.
Anyway, Gavin, are you ready?
Yes.
Here we go.
Hey, my name is Imelda, and I live in Rock Hill, but we're out in Utah for the winter. We spend our winters out here where it's cold and mostly windy and snowy, but hasn't been this year. Anyway, today, while I was walking the dog, I was listening to the latest SC lead, and I heard about a change in the Senate, or the Senate passing on the homestead exemption. But I'm trying to figure out where I can get more information about that. So I'll try to go into the public records, but that seems like, I mean, when we moved from Maryland down to South Carolina, it felt like they were just throwing money at us to live there. But this is over the top. So anyway, love the podcast. Thanks. Bye.
Hey, Imelda, thanks for calling. I love a fellow Marylander. Incredible. Girl, we moved going also from Rock Hill to Utah. even more of an incredible flex to winter somewhere. We love all of our listeners that have different seasonal movements.
Please let us know.
You're not on a boat, but close enough. But I would love to know more about Utah. I'm sure it's wonderful this time of year. I would love to go skiing, but my foot. But you were asking Imelda about the homestead exemption expansion, which we've been following. And of course,
she'd like to know more.
If you want to just keep up with it too, I would say, the word version of the podcast is SCETV.org/the gavel. We keep up with all the movements on some of these bigger bills, especially the homestead exemption, in detail there. But if you want to know about that right now, and of course, based on, your residency and being here, you'd be grandfathered in at this point. But what the expansion would look like, so currently right now, if you're 65 years or older, you get an exemption on your property tax breaks for your house's fair market value of up to $50,000. And now this is going to expand to $150,000 in the following tax years. And that's if you've been here for 10 years as a resident. A 5-year resident will see that exemption go to $75,000 too. So again, you'll be grandfathered in at this point. And this is for folks moving here to kind of just ease that burden, that expansion. So again, more incentive to move here.
We want people.
Yeah.
They're looking for people.
Well, they're coming. My gosh, the gray wave, no offense, but they're here. And they're also, jetting off to Utah too. Jealous. We got to go. I have to imagine there's some skiing involved in this.
Somehow, how do we take the boat to Utah? That's my question.
But yeah, so that's that property tax relief there. That's more ways to kind of keep things going and keep everyone happy and talk about affordability issues. Of course, us younger than 65 would love to see some ways that be addressed too, and that's been aired on the Senate too. But of course, fixed income versus someone who still has a good bit of earning potential ahead of them. That's the trade-off right there. But speaking about earning potential,
love where you're pivoting.
If I can segue this.
Love where you're pivoting, bud.
The orchid that I bought last year on its last legs at Lowe's on the half price
is running an orphanage at his house.
And I said, here's a life goal.
Here's home a life goal. Wayward plants.
I said, look at this abandoned orchid. I'm sure the whole world's just thought this orchid's gone to the dustbin.
Sure.
Not me.
That's what they
Not
say.
Me.
Gone to the
And
dustbin.
that's why I'm going to announce my bid to run for governor.
Gavin's throwing his hat in.
You can bring an orchid back to life.
Yeah.
I don't want to say you can do everything, but you can pretty much do anything.
What's his platform? What does he stand? Well, it's a lot of orchid-related stuff. I gotta say,
you got to understand the complexity of orchids.
He's not talking about much besides orchids, folks.
But those who get it, right?
Yeah. He's got the horticulturalist vote on lock. Huge voting block, by the way.
I just stand outside of the Trader Joe's with all those orchids there, and I say, oh, you buying a new one? Why not reinvest?
How about I rip
what
those
you've already bought?
Let me rip those leaves off for you. Or petals.
Okay.
Petals.
I'll see you in a year.
Yeah, all right.
Buddy.
Yeah. And I'm sure I'll have
I will
your vote.
say, this is just one of the 2 orchids that I have. Yes.
Wow.
That was a brag.
God,
the other one.
He's not going to tell you straight
other
off
one
that
had
he's
the blooms
got money,
coming.
but you're going to find out, okay?
There will be signs. They'll be recycling orchids.
2 orchid household.
The other one has these great green buds on them. They're getting bigger. I'm like, oh, it's happening. Now, I did maybe make a mistake. I did repot these things while they were starting to really bud. And I was like, maybe I should just keep things relative.
Sure. Classic
Gambled.
dilemma.
And now, that one, the green buds are falling. They're not blooming.
You want to take that one down to level so you can resuscitate
I guess
it all
so.
the way back.
I don't know, but it was a hard winter. Okay, I'm not gonna lie, it was a hard winter. Just looking at those barren shoots.
RSV, Gavin,
and then they start showing up, and then you're like, oh my gosh,
when Gavin says
you're like, I'm doing it.
When Gavin says that's a load of BS, he said he means barren shoots.
And then it blew up. I was like, oh my god, it's happening. Now I got to keep it alive.
Yeah.
It's terrifying.
Gavin started its own
at
Instagram
the end of the day,
for it. Yeah.
Things
at the end of the day.
At the end of the day, it's a win-win. We all win. We're so excited.
EOD, huge for the pod, folks.
EOB, end of business.
End of buzz.
EOBD, end of business day. Yeah, that's like first line of the obit right there, in my opinion.
Well, it's also
plant dad.
You're running on it.
Yeah, I'm campaigning on it.
Yeah, Gavin's. That's the big takeaway. Number 1, orchid back. Number 2, Gavin's hat in the ring.
Orchids have him back. I will say though, as funny as this all is, fertilizer is going to get expensive, folks, because of the Strait of Hormuz. A lot of fertilizer actually moves through
Hormuz?
there.
Gavin's
you
feeling
don't realize how much is going on in the Strait of Hormuz until you miss it. Oh, but I also, since we're talking about spring and springing forward,
it's sprung, folks.
I will say that since I spent most of the weekend in bed just for safety.
Sure.
Because
no safer place.
Because
Those are plays.
I become like Willy Wonka's grandparents on the weekends.
That's not Willy. I got to correct you. It's not Willy Wonka's grandparents. Okay, it's Charlie's grandparents. A lot of people just shut it off. A lot of people shut the show off. They're fine with you running, but getting that wrong, yeah. They're not happy.
Yeah, I'm listening to the shut-in vote. The homestead exemption right there.
That's what they're talking about, yeah.
Oh, I mean, I'm sure that place is in their name, of course, right? And they got the exemption. I don't want to go into the brass tacks of British property tax law here,
It's disgusting what they do.
What happens.
The mom washing in the back alley, singing songs in the moonlight, lollygagging grandparents in bed,
This kid
touching
just
feet.
has a candy budget.
Could you imagine what the everlasting gobstopper would do to the economy if the gobstopper market went to zero after everyone bought an everlasting one?
Slugworth, baby, he's got it now.
Slugworth knew it.
Of course I'd sell it out. Of course I'd do it.
I gotta,
I would do it.
as a new parent, though, I gotta say, impervious to daylight saving changes.
Oh, yeah, no one
because
knows the
my
time.
sleep is already such crap.
You're just like, yeah.
I'm like, yeah, okay, so you're meeting me where I am, society.
So nearby to where I live, there is a rooster
Yes,
that caws.
they don't believe.
During the morning, during the afternoon, it doesn't care.
It's a car. He's a car.
You know, and I know that I'm in Gamecock country,
Caw-caw.
so I got to do it. But do you know why roosters crow?
Why?
This is primarily to establish territorial dominance.
Territorial
Assert their
dominance,
place
yeah.
in the pecking order, quite literally,
Funny.
and to signal the start of the day. That's
So
what
it's-
the internet's
You're
telling me.
saying it's an alpha move.
Yeah, pretty much. That's why when I get up and I walk outside, I just let out a big scream.
Yeah, Gavin.
And say, hey,
a lot of
what's going on?
primitive primordial bellows. Yeah.
But no, I think I've been springing forward okay so far.
Your other
the
your
time
other
travel is
foot
okay.
is okay. No breaking.
Nothing's happened. Again, primarily was just in bed, just due to the
Sure.
springing forward.
You just want to
It's
stay
the safest space.
The homeostasis.
It's like
dude.
jet lag. You just kind of forget the time, and then you just wake up, and that is the time. You know what I mean?
You guys, you have my vote, Gavin. Anyway, have a good week, everyone.
Oh, and the raw milk I didn't have a chance to talk about. Hopefully I can continue to have your vote for that.
we got only a
Say
few
no
more
more.
episodes to episode 700. so you're gonna
700 is
have
coming, guys.
Anyway, Gavin.
What does it mean?
I think literally nothing.
Where do they come from?
Because
What do they want?
Then there's 800 and so on. Anyway, Gavin, say goodbye. Do the credits, big boy.
Let us know. Episode 700's coming up. What's your wish for episode 700? 803-563-7169. There are no wrong answers. And you can stay up to date with the latest news on SCETV.org and SouthCarolinaPublicRadio.org. And don't forget to support your local newspapers. The South Carolina Lede is a production of South Carolina Public Radio. Our producer is A.T. Shire. Amy Crouch is our supervising producer. Sean Birch is our executive producer. This podcast is produced with support from PRX and is made possible in part by a grant from the John S. and James L. Knight Foundation, as well as listener contributions to the ETV Endowment of South Carolina. For the South Carolina Lead, I'm Gavin Jackson. Be well, South Carolina. Dear listeners, we must take a brief reprieve.
What is better than building anticipation? It is the anticipation is greater than the act. Ooh.
It draws near.
Ooh, nigh.